The sun was barely peeking over the city skyline, casting a soft golden glow on the cracked pavement of the bus stop. Gwen stood there, her worn sneakers tapping lightly against the ground. At 23, Gwen worked as a waitress at a small diner called Rosie's, scraping by to pay rent and dreaming of a life beyond her tiny studio apartment. Today, like every day, she clutched her purse tightly, counting the coins inside to make sure she had enough for the bus fare. Across town, Josh was having a very different morning. Tall, with broad shoulders and a chiseled jaw, he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. At 30, he was a self-made millionaire, running a tech company that was about to close a multi-million-dollar deal. But today, everything was falling apart. His driver had called in sick, his phone was dying, and he was running late for the most important meeting of his life. Frustrated, Josh decided to take a shortcut through the city streets, his polished shoes pounding the pavement as he hurried toward a bus stop, the same one Gwen was at. Back at the stop, Gwen glanced at her watch. The bus was late, as usual. She sighed, adjusting the strap of her faded denim bag. A few other regulars were an old man reading a newspaper, a mom with a stroller, a teenager glued to his phone. Gwen's mind wandered to her dreams of opening her own bakery someday, a cozy place filled with the smell of fresh bread and laughter. But dreams like that felt far away when you were counting pennies. Josh, meanwhile, was practically sprinting now. His tie was loose, his dark hair messy from the wind. He could see the bus stop in the distance, and his heart raced. If he missed this meeting, he'd lose the D-land everything he'd worked for. As he got closer, he patted his pockets, then froze, his wallet, his credit cards, gone. Left on his desk in his rush to leave, panic hit him like a tidal wave. How was he going to pay for the bus? Just then, the bus screeched to a stop, its doors hissing open. Gwen stepped forward, dropping her coins into the fare box with a practiced hand. She smiled at the driver, a grumpy older guy named Hank, and made her way to a window seat near the back. The bus was half full, the hum of chatter and the rumble of the engine filling the air. Josh reached the stop just as the doors started to close. "Wait!" he called, banging on the glass. Hank rolled his eyes but reopened the doors. Josh climbed aboard, out of breath, his tailored suit looking out of place among the worn seats and tired faces. He fumbled in his pockets again, hoping for a miracle, but found nothing. His face flushed as he looked at Hank. I forgot my wallet," Josh said, his voice low. "I'll pay double next time, I swear." Hank snorted. "Yeah, right. Heard that one before. Pay up or get off." Josh's stomach sank. He was already late. Getting kicked off the bus would ruin everything. He opened his mouth to argue, but Hank cut him off. "No money, no ride. Rules are rules." The other passengers started to whisper, some annoyed, some curious. Gwen, sitting a few rows back, glanced up. She saw Josh, tall, handsome, clearly out of his element, and something in his eyes caught her. He wasn't just embarrassed. He looked desperate. Her heart tugged. She knew what it was like to feel stuck. Before she could think twice, Gwen stood up, digging into her purse. "I'll cover him," she said, her voice soft but firm. She walked to the front, dropping her last few coins into the fare box. It was all she had, money she'd saved for lunch, but she couldn't just watch this guy get thrown off. Josh turned to her, his green eyes wide with surprise. "You didn't have to do that," he said, his voice softer now. Gwen shrugged, a shy smile tugging at her lips. "It's no big deal." But it was a big deal. To Josh, it was everything. He stared at her, this stranger with kind eyes and a warm smile, and felt something he hadn't felt in years of spark. As Gwen returned to her seat, Josh followed, hesitating before sitting across the aisle from her. "I'm Josh, by the way," he said, leaning forward. "I owe you one." "Gwen," she replied, glancing out the window to hide her blush. "And don't worry about it." But Josh wasn't going to forget. Not her name, not her face, not this moment. As the bus rumbled on, he made a silent promise. He'd find a way to repay her. And maybe, just maybe, he'd get to know the girl who'd saved him. The bus rattled through the city, weaving past coffee shops and office buildings. Gwen stared out the window, her reflection faint against the glass. She couldn't stop thinking about the guy she'd helped, Josh. He was still sitting across from her, sneaking glances her way. She could feel his eyes, and it made her stomach flip. He was handsome, sure, but there was something else about him. Something real. Josh, meanwhile, was barely focused on his meeting anymore. His mind was on Gwen. She didn't know he was a millionaire, didn't know he could buy the whole bus if he wanted to. To her, he was just a guy in trouble, and she'd helped him without a second thought. That kind of kindness was rare in his world of cutthroat deals and fake smiles. He cleared his throat, leaning toward her. "So Gwen," he said, his voice casual but curious, "where you headed?" She turned, surprised he was still talking to her. "Oh, just work. I'm a waitress at Rosie's Diner, you know it?" Josh nodded, though he didn't. He'd never set foot in a place like Rosie's. His life was 5-star restaurants and private chefs, but he wanted to know more about her world. "Sounds nice. You like it there?" Gwen laughed, a soft sound that made Josh's chest tighten. "It's okay. Pays the bills." Well, barely. She bit her lip, wondering why she'd said that. She didn't usually open up to strangers. Josh smiled, leaning back. "I get it. We've all got bills." He wanted to say more, to tell her he'd make sure she never worried about money again, but he stopped himself. It was too soon, and she'd probably think he was crazy. The bus hit a pothole, jolting them both. Gwen's purse slid off her lap, spilling a few things: a pen, a crumpled receipt, a tiny keychain shaped like a cupcake. Josh reached down to help her pick them up, his fingers brushing hers as he handed her the keychain. Their eyes met, and for a second, the noisy bus faded away. "Thanks," Gwen mumbled, her cheeks pink. "No problem," Josh said, his voice low. He wanted to keep talking, but his stop was coming up. He glanced at his watch, cursing under his breath. The meeting. He couldn't miss it. As the bus slowed, Josh stood, hesitating. "Gwen, I meant it. I owe you. Can I maybe get your number so I can pay you back?" Gwen blinked, caught off guard. Guys didn't usually ask for her number, and definitely not guys who looked like Josh. She fumbled for a pen, scribbling her number on the back of her receipt. "Here. But you don't have to pay me back, really." Josh took the paper, his fingers lingering on hers. "I will," he said, and the way he looked at her made her heart skip. He stepped off the bus, the doors closing behind him. Gwen watched him disappear into the crowd, wondering if she'd ever see him again. She didn't know why, but she hoped so. Josh, meanwhile, was already planning. He slipped the receipt into his pocket, his mind racing. He'd made it to his meeting barely, but all he could think about was Gwen, her smile, her kindness. He didn't just want to pay her back. He wanted to change her life. But first, he had to find her again. That night, Gwen got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Josh. Thanks again for today. Mind if I swing by Rosie's sometime?" Her heart raced as she typed back, "Sure, anytime." But Josh wasn't just planning a visit. He had something bigger in mind, something that would turn Gwen's world upside down. And it started with finding out everything he could about her. The next morning, Gwen woke up feeling lighter than usual. She couldn't stop thinking about Josh's text. As she got ready for work, pulling on a Rosie's uniform, a simple blue dress with a white apron, she caught herself smiling in the mirror. "Get it together, Gwen," she muttered. He was just being polite, right? Guys like him didn't fall for girls like her. At Rosie's, the breakfast rush was in full swing. The diner was small but cozy, with red vinyl booths and the smell of coffee and bacon in the air. Gwen tied her apron and dove into work, taking orders and refilling mugs. But her eyes kept drifting to the door, hoping Josh might walk in. Across town, Josh was in his penthouse office, staring at his computer. The deal had gone through barely, but his focus was elsewhere. He'd spent the night thinking about Gwen, replaying their moment on the bus. He'd already looked up Rosie's Diner, and now he was digging deeper. Not in a creepy way, he just wanted to know more about her. A quick search turned up nothing, which wasn't surprising. Gwen didn't seem like the social media type. He leaned back, glancing at the receipt with her number. He'd texted her last night, and her reply had made him grin like a kid. Today, he was going to Rosie's, not just to say thanks, but because he couldn't shake the feeling that meeting her wasn't a coincidence. By noon, Rosie's was quieter. Gwen was wiping down a counter when the bell above the door jingled. She looked up, and her heart stopped. Josh walked in, looking even better than she remembered. He traded his suit for jeans and a fitted black shirt, but he still stood out, his green eyes scanning the room until they landed on her. "Hey," he said, sliding into a booth. "Told you I'd stop by." Gwen smoothed her apron, suddenly nervous. "Hey, welcome to Rosie's. Coffee?" "Only if you're pouring," he said with a grin. She laughed, grabbing the pot. As she filled his mug, their hands brushed, and that spark was back. Josh watched her, noticing the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the way she smiled at every customer. She was real, not like the polished women he usually met. "So," Gwen said, leaning against the table, "you survived your big day yesterday?" "Barely," Josh said, sipping his coffee. "Thanks to you. I meant it. I owe you more than a bus fare." Gwen waved him off. "It was nothing. Just helping out." "It wasn't nothing to me," Josh said, his voice serious. Their eyes locked, and Gwen felt her cheeks heat up. Before she could respond, another customer called her over. Josh watched her work, his mind racing. He wanted to do something big for her, something to show how much her kindness meant. But he didn't want to scare her off. He needed to take it slow. As Gwen rang up an order, her coworker Mia nudged her. "Who's the hot guy staring at you?" Gwen glanced at Josh, who was pretending to read the menu. "Just someone I met," she said, her voice shy. "Uh-huh," Mia teased. "He's got it bad for you." Gwen rolled her eyes, but her heart was racing. When she brought Josh his check, he slipped her a tip way more than the coffee cost. "Josh, this is too much," she said, trying to hand it back. "Keep it," he said, standing. "And maybe let me take you out sometime, to say thanks properly." Gwen froze. "A date? With him?" Maybe," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Josh smiled, like he'd won the lottery. "I'll hold you to that." As he left, Gwen stared at the tip in her hand. It was enough to cover her rent for the month. Who was this guy? And why did he make her feel like anything was possible? Gwen spent the next few days in a daze. Josh texted her every morning simple stuff like, "Hope your day's off to a great start," or "Thinking about that coffee at Rosie's." Each message made her smile, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was too good to be true. Guys like Josh didn't stick around in her world. On Friday, he called. "So," he said, his voice warm. "About that date. You free tomorrow night?" Gwen hesitated. She wanted to say yes, but doubt crept in. What if he was just being nice? What if she got her hopes up and got hurt? But then she thought of his eyes, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. "Okay," she said finally. "Tomorrow." Josh picked her up in a sleek black car, not flashy, but nice enough to make Gwen's eyes widen. He was in a button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking effortlessly perfect. "You look amazing," he said as she slid into the passenger seat, her simple sundress feeling fancier under his gaze. "Thanks," Gwen said, blushing. "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise," Josh said, his grin mischievous. They ended up at a rooftop restaurant, the city lights sparkling below. Gwen had never been anywhere like it. The menu had no prices, which made her nervous, but Josh insisted she order whatever she wanted. Over dinner, pasta for her, steak for him, they talked about everything. Gwen told him about her bakery dreams. Josh shared stories of his childhood, carefully avoiding details about his wealth. As the night went on, Gwen relaxed. Josh wasn't just charming. He listened, really listened. When she laughed, he lit up. When she got shy, he teased her gently until she smiled again. By the time dessert came a chocolate cake they shared, Gwen felt like she'd known him forever. After dinner, they walked through a nearby park, the air cool and quiet. Josh stopped by a fountain, turning to her. "Gwen, I need to tell you something." Her heart sank. Here, it was the catch. "What is it?" she asked, bracing herself. Josh took a deep breath. I'm not just some guy who forgot his wallet. I run a company, a big one, and I want to help you, not just because you helped me, but because I think you're incredible. Gwen stared at him, her mind spinning. A company? Was he rich? Famous? She didn't know what to say. Josh, I don't need your help. I mean, I like you, but I'm not trying to buy you, he said quickly. I just want to be part of your life. If you'll let me. Before she could answer, he stepped closer, his hand brushing her cheek. Then, slowly, he kissed her. It was soft, warm, perfect. Gwen's heart raced as she kissed him back, the world fading away. But when they pulled apart, doubt crept back in. Could she trust this? Could she trust him? The kiss lingered in Gwen's mind all week. She replayed it. At work. At home. Every quiet moment. Josh was different kind. Attentive. Real. But his words about his company stuck with her. She hadn't pressed him for details, but now she wondered, just how big was his life? And where did she fit in it? Josh, meanwhile, was falling hard. He'd dated before, but no one liked Gwen. She wasn't impressed by money or status. She cared about people, about him. He wanted to tell her everything about his millions, his penthouse, his world, but he was afraid. What if it changed how she saw him? One evening, Josh showed up at Rosie's with a plan. He waited until Gwen's shift ended, then pulled her aside. I've got a surprise, he said, his eyes twinkling. You trust me? Gwen laughed, nervous but curious. Maybe. What's up? He drove her to an empty storefront in the city, its windows dark but clean. Inside, he flicked on the lights, revealing a space filled with baking equipment, mixers, ovens, shelves. Gwen's jaw dropped. What is this? It's yours, Josh said, watching her face. If you want it. A place for your bakery. Gwen froze. A bakery? Her dream handed to her? It was too much. Josh, I can't. This is crazy. How did you even. I wanted to do something for you, he said, stepping closer. You deserve this, Gwen. You're amazing, and I believe in you. Tears pricked her eyes, but so did doubt. Why me, Josh? You barely know me. I know enough, he said, his voice soft. I know you're kind and strong, and I'm falling for you. Her breath caught. Falling for her? She wanted to believe him, but it felt like a fairy tale, and fairy tales weren't real. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed a text from Mia. Saw your guy on television. He's loaded, Gwen. Like Michigan Millionaire loaded. Gwen's question hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Josh's smile faded, and for the first time, he looked nervous. The bakery's fluorescent lights buzzed softly, the only sound in the room. Gwen clutched her phone, Mia's text burning in her mind. He's a millionaire. She didn't want to believe Josh had been hiding something so big, but the pieces were starting to fit his nice car. The way he threw money around, this bakery. Gwen, Josh said, stepping toward her. What's wrong? She held up her phone, her hand shaking. My friend says you're some kind of millionaire. Is that true? Josh's face fell. He ran a hand through his hair, looking caught. I was going to tell you, he said. I swear, I just didn't know how. So it's true? Gwen's voice was quiet, but it cut like a knife. You've been lying to me. No, Josh said quickly. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. I'm not just some guy, Gwen. I own a tech company. It's done well, really well. But I didn't want that to change how you saw me. Gwen's head spun. A millionaire. Not just rich, but that kind of rich. She thought of her tiny apartment, her secondhand clothes, the way she counted coins for the bus. How could she fit into his world? Why didn't you tell me from the start? She asked, her voice breaking. You let me think you were normal? You thought I was normal because I am normal, Josh said, his eyes pleading. The money doesn't change who I am. I'm still the guy who was freaking out on that bus. The guy you saved without asking for anything in return. I'm still the guy who's crazy about you. Gwen's heart raced, crazy about her. She wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her. "This bakery," she said, gesturing around. "Is this you trying to buy me? Because I don't need your money, Josh. I don't want to be some project." Josh flinched like she'd slapped him. "It's not like that," he said. "I got this place because I believe in you, because I want to see you happy, not because I think you need fixing." She looked away, tears stinging her eyes. The bakery was her dream, but it felt tainted now. Was he doing this out of love? Or was it pity? Or worse, control? "Gwen," Josh said softly, stepping closer. "I messed up. I should have told you everything, but I'm telling you now. I'm in love with you. That's why I did this. Not the money, not the company, me." Her breath caught. Love. He'd said it. She searched his face, looking for a lie, but all she saw was sincerity. Still, it was too much, too fast. "I need time," she said finally. "To think." Josh nodded, his jaw tight. "Okay, take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." He drove her home in silence, the air thick with unspoken words. When she got out of the car, Gwen didn't look back. Inside her apartment, she sank onto her couch, staring at the bakery's key in her hand. She wanted to trust Josh, to believe in his love, but fear held her back. What if she let him in, and he broke her heart? Meanwhile, Josh sat in his car outside her building, his head in his hands. He'd blown it. He'd wanted to give her the world, but all he'd done was push her away. But he wasn't giving up. He'd find a way to prove his love without the money, without the gifts, just him. The next day, Gwen went to work, her mind a mess. She kept expecting Josh to show up at Rosie's, but he didn't. Instead, she found a note slipped under the diner's door, in his handwriting. "I'm sorry. Let me make this right. Meet me at the park tonight?" Her heart flipped. She wanted to say no, to protect herself. But deep down, she missed him, the real him. The guy who made her laugh, who looked at her like she was everything. Could she give him another chance? Gwen stood in her tiny bathroom, staring at her reflection. The note from Josh was tucked in her pocket, its words stuck in her head. "Let me make this right." She'd spent all day at Rosie's replaying their fight, torn between her heart and her head. Her heart wanted to run to him, to believe in his love. Her head told her to stay safe, to avoid getting hurt. But as the clock ticked closer to evening, she knew she couldn't ignore how she felt. She pulled on a sweater and jeans, nothing fancy, and headed to the park. The air was crisp, the sky streaked with pink and orange. The fountain where they'd kissed glowed softly under the streetlights. Gwen's stomach twisted as she scanned the crowd. What if he didn't show? What if this was a mistake? Then she saw him. Josh stood by the fountain, hands in his pockets, looking nervous. He wasn't in his usual polished clothes, just a hoodie and jeans, like he was trying to blend into her world. When he spotted her, his face lit up, but he didn't move. He was waiting for her to decide. Gwen took a deep breath and walked over. "Hey," she said, her voice quiet. "Hey," Josh said, his eyes searching hers. "You came." She nodded, crossing her arms. "I almost didn't. But I wanted to hear you out." Josh exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath. "I'm so sorry, Gwen. I should have been honest from the start. I didn't tell you about the money because I was scared it'd change things. People treat me differently when they know. But you saw me, not the bank account, and I didn't want to lose that." Gwen looked down, kicking a pebble. "I get why you didn't say anything, but it hurt, Josh. Finding out like that, it made me feel like I don't belong in your world." "You do," he said fiercely. "You belong wherever I am. I don't care about the money, Gwen. I care about you, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove it." She met his eyes, seeing the same guy she'd met on the bus, vulnerable, real. "How do I know this is real?" she asked. "Not just some fairy tale that'll disappear?" Josh stepped closer, his voice soft. "Because I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to fix your life or buy your love. I just want to be with you laughing, fighting, figuring it out together. Is that enough?" Gwen's throat tightened. It was what she'd always wanted, someone who saw her, who chose her. Slowly, she nodded. "It's enough." Josh's smile was like sunlight. He reached for her hand, and she let him take it, their fingers lacing together. They sat by the fountain, talking until the stars came out. Josh told her about his life, the pressure of running a company, the loneliness of his success. Gwen opened up about her fears, her dreams, the way she'd always felt like she had to do everything alone. As they walked home, Josh stopped under a streetlight. "I'm not perfect," he said, "but I'm all in, Gwen." "Are you?" Her heart pounded, but she didn't hesitate. "Yeah," she said, smiling. "I'm in." They kissed, slow and sweet, the world falling away. For the first time, Gwen felt like she could trust him. But the next morning, everything changed. Gwen woke up to a flood of notifications on her phone. Someone had posted a photo of her and Josh kissing at the park, and it was everywhere online. The headline screamed, "Millionaire Josh Carter's mystery girl, who is she?" Gwen's stomach dropped. Her private moment was now a spectacle, and worse people were digging into her life, calling her a gold digger, a nobody. She stared at the screen, her hands shaking. Had Josh known this would happen? Was this what loving him meant? Gwen's apartment felt smaller than ever as she scrolled through the comments online. She's just after his money. What's a guy like Josh doing with her? Each word stung, tearing at the fragile hope she'd built with Josh. She'd never wanted fame, she just wanted him. But now her face was plastered across gossip sites, her life picked apart by strangers. She called Josh, her voice trembling. "Did you see this?" "I just did," he said, sounding furious. "Gwen, I'm so sorry. I didn't know anyone was watching us. I'm coming over." When he arrived, he looked wrecked, hair messy, eyes tired. He pulled her into a hug, holding her tight. "I'll fix this," he promised. "I'll get that photo down, shut down the stories, whatever it takes." But Gwen pulled back, her eyes wet. "It's not just the photo, Josh, it's everything. People are saying I'm using you. They don't even know me, and they hate me. Is this what it's like to be with you?" Josh's face fell. "It's not always like this," he said. "I swear. My life's been quiet for years. But sometimes, yeah, people notice. I should have warned you." "You should have," Gwen said, her voice sharp. "I didn't sign up for this. I'm just a waitress, Josh. I don't know how to deal with people tearing me apart." He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "Gwen, please," he said. "I love you. We can get through this together." "I don't know if I can," she whispered. "I need space." Josh looked like he'd been punched, but he nodded. "Okay, I'll give you space, but I'm not giving up on us." After he left, Gwen sank onto her couch, tears falling. She loved him, she knew that now, but loving him came with a price she hadn't expected. Could she pay it? At work, things got worse. Customers whispered as she passed, some snapping photos. Mia tried to cheer her up, but Gwen felt exposed, like she was living under a microscope. She quit checking her phone, scared of what she'd find. Meanwhile, Josh was on a mission. He called his lawyers, demanding they track down the photographer and kill the story. He reached out to every contact he had, trying to shield Gwen from the fallout. But the more he fought, the bigger the story grew. By the end of the week, Gwen's name was trending, and so was the bakery he'd given her. People were calling it a publicity stunt, saying he'd bought her love. Josh couldn't take it. He showed up at Rosie's during Gwen's shift, ignoring the stares. "Gwen," he said, standing by the counter. "I know you asked for space, but I can't let you think I don't care. I'm fighting for you, for us. Tell me what you need and I'll do it." Gwen looked at him, her heart torn. She wanted to believe him, but the world was screaming at her to run. "I don't know what I need," she said, "but I can't do this right now." As Josh left defeated, Gwen noticed a woman watching from a booth. She was older, sharply dressed, with a cold smile. After Gwen took her order, The woman leaned in. "You're the girl with Josh Carter, right? Be careful. Men like him don't stick around." Gwen's blood ran cold. Who was this woman? And what did she know about Josh? The woman's words echoed in Gwen's mind as she finished her shift. Men like him don't stick around. She didn't know who the woman was, but the warning felt personal, like a shard of truth Gwen had been ignoring. She wanted to trust Josh, to believe in their love, but the world kept throwing obstacles in their way first. The media, now this stranger. Was the universe trying to tell her something? That night, Gwen couldn't sleep. She sat on her couch, scrolling through old texts from Josh, silly ones that made her laugh, sweet ones that made her heart ache. She missed him, but fear held her back. What if the woman was right? What if Josh's feelings faded once the excitement wore off? The next morning, she went to the bakery. She hadn't been back since Josh showed it to her, but she needed to think. The space was quiet, the equipment gleaming under the lights. She ran her fingers over a mixer, imagining the cake she could make, the life she could build. Josh had given her this chance, not out of pity, but because he believed in her. Didn't that mean something? As she stood there, the door opened. She turned, expecting Josh, but it was the woman from Rosie's. Up close, she was striking tall, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that seemed to see everything. "Gwen, right?" the woman said, her voice smooth. "I'm Vanessa. I used to know Josh." Gwen's stomach twisted. "Used to?" Vanessa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We were engaged years ago. I thought you should know what you're getting into. Josh is charming, but he's not built for forever. He gets bored, moves on. I'd hate to see you hurt." Gwen's heart pounded. Engaged? Josh had never mentioned an ex-fiancé. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Because someone should," Vanessa said. "You seem nice, Gwen. Too nice for his world. Save yourself the heartbreak." Vanessa left, her heels clicking on the floor. Gwen stood frozen, her mind racing. Was Vanessa telling the truth? Had Josh hidden this from her, just like he'd hidden his money? She needed answers. She called Josh, her hands trembling. When he answered, his voice was warm, hopeful. "Gwen, I'm so glad you—" "Were you engaged?" she cut in. "To someone named Vanessa?" Silence. Then, "Yeah," Josh said, his voice heavy. "A long time ago. How'd you know?" "She came to see me," Gwen said. "Told me you'll break my heart. Is she right, Josh? Is there more you're not telling me?" "Gwen—" "No," he said, desperate. "Vanessa and I ended years ago. It didn't work. She wasn't who I thought she was. I didn't tell you because it doesn't matter. You're the one I love." Gwen wanted to believe him, but Vanessa's words clung to her like smoke. "I don't know what to think anymore," she said. "Every time I trust you, something else comes up." "Let me see you," Josh pleaded. "I'll tell you everything about Vanessa, about my past. No more secrets." He hadn't slept in days. Met up with her. He told her everything, how Vanessa had wanted his money, not him. How she'd broken his trust. How he'd sworn off love until he met Gwen. "You're different," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "You're real, and I'll spend my life proving it if you'll let me." Gwen's heart ached. She saw the truth in his eyes, but she also saw the chaos of his world. Could she handle it? Could she be enough? Gwen stood in the bakery, Josh's words hanging between them. Asterisk, I'll spend my life proving it. Asterisk. Her heart wanted to leap into his arms, to believe in their love, but her head was still reeling from Vanessa's visit, the media storm, the weight of his world. She looked at him, his tired eyes, his open hands, and knew this was the moment. Stay or walk away. "Josh," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "I love you. I do. But your life, it's so much bigger than mine. The money, the cameras, people like Vanessa. I don't know if I'm strong enough for all of it." Josh stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "You're stronger than you know, Gwen. You saved me that day on the bus. Not just from missing a meeting, but from forgetting what real kindness feels like. I don't want you to fit into my world. I want us to build our own. Together. Her breath caught. Together. Not him leading, not her following, but something new. She thought of the bakery, of her dreams, of the way Josh made her laugh until her sides hurt. She thought of the bus, that first spark, the way he'd looked at her like she was everything. I'm scared, she admitted, tears spilling over. What if we try, and it falls apart? Then we'll pick up the pieces, Josh said, taking her hands. I'm not promising it'll be easy, but I'm promising I'll be there. Every step. Gwen searched his face and saw the man she'd fallen for, not the millionaire, not the headlines, just Josh. She took a deep breath, her decision made. Okay, she said, a small smile breaking through. Let's try. Josh's face lit up, and he pulled her into his arms, kissing her like she was the only thing that mattered. The bakery faded away, and for that moment, it was just them. No cameras, no doubts, just love. Over the next few months, they faced the world together. Josh hired a PR team to handle the media, keeping Gwen's life private. He sold the bakery's lease, letting Gwen choose a new spot, one she could afford on her own terms. She started small, selling cupcakes at local markets, with Josh cheering her on, carrying trays and sneaking bites of frosting. Vanessa faded into the background, her warnings proven wrong. The gossip died down, replaced by stories of Gwen's growing business and Josh's quiet support. They fought sometimes about money, about time, about the little things, but they always came back to each other, stronger. One evening, a year after the bus, Josh took Gwen back to the park fountain. The city hummed around them, but it felt like their own world. He got down on one knee, a simple ring in his hand, no diamonds, just a band etched with a tiny cupcake. Gwen, he said, his voice thick. You're my home. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. Yes, she whispered, laughing through her sobs. Yes. As they kissed under the stars, the city seemed to cheer. Gwen, the girl who'd paid a stranger's bus fare, had found her happily ever after, not because of money, but because of love. Thanks for sticking with us. See you in the next story. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this story. Subscribe and share for more wild stories.